a change in the cultural ideas, beliefs, and so on across time. What causes delta G, delta C, and how do they interact with each other? Though this is the substance of a much more difficult and lengthy topic than I can get into. But let me just say that the causes of genetic change are well worked out in Darwinian theory and include Darwin's main means of modification, natural selection, but also mutation, migration, and chance effects. If we ask the same, what are the causes of cultural change, we get that big question mark again. People have filled it in with various things. Some people have said repeated innovation or invention. Some people have said, well, diffusing. Well, obviously diffusion, cross-lineage borrowing, everybody borrows. You know, we're all good examples of how our societies borrow. Transmission forces are an interesting possibility. In genetic selection, the regularities of biparental inheritance mean that gene transmission is not a Mendelian process, is not a cause of evolution. But Cavalli and Feldman have shown that it is a cause of evolution in culture. Again, I think it's important in special cases. What I go with is a thing called cultural selection, which is value-guided decision-making. And it reminds me that the point made this morning by Jean-Pierre, that there were theories about evolution long before Darwin. In fact, you could say that Darwin coined the term natural selection, and he said so himself, to mark the relationship between his process and human choice. He was very explicit about it, and there's a passage in On the Origin. He says, I have called this thing natural selection to mark its relation to human selection by breeders. So what I'm trying to do is to reclaim back for the social sciences something that was there from the beginning, which is the value-guided decision-making of humans. So my conclusion is that Girard's mechanism and cultural dynamic will be expected whenever mimetic rivalry, acting as a force, acting as a condition in a population. And what I really appreciate about Girardian theory is it gives us a kind of a social context, a social structure in which cultural things emerge and change. Whenever mimetic rivalry has a strong influence upon cultural selection, this is a testable empirical question. I view the mimetic theory as a widespread and powerful case, as an example of cultural selection driven by a kind of dynamic in a population, a social dynamic where there's widespread mimetic rivalry. And interestingly, if you look at it this way, it makes it even more congruent with Darwinian theory. Because what it says is that the Girardian dynamic contributes to the differential persistence of cultural forms in a population, selecting among them and between them, involving sacrificial victims and so on in environments where that's appropriate. In effect, it's saying that Girard adds to Darwin as an extra Darwinian mechanism of adaptation. So I'd be more than happy to take your questions, including any elaborations that you would like to talk about. Thank you very kindly.